Hare Krishna. Good evening to all the devotees. Welcome to our weekly session program. Extremely sorry. Today devotees might be anticipating the presence of His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhu. Since Prabhuji is busy, so he said some of you continue the classes. So thought we'll continue with the same discussions what we were doing in the previous weeks. So in the last week, of course, in the last couple of weeks, we were discussing from 26th chapter of the Canto 3, wherein the Sankhya Yoga has been presented by Lord Kapila unto Mother Devahuti. So in the beginning of the chapter, Lord Kapila actually describes the relationship between Ishvara, Prakruti and Jiva. So how Jiva, being impregnated by the Lord, enters into the womb of Prakruti and gets a material body, identifies with it, and tries to enjoy in this material world with that misidentification, and hence bounds up in this material world. That's how Jiva is bound in this material world. That's what Lord Kapila mentions. So hearing that, Mother Devahuti makes an inquiry, a simple inquiry that, so my dear Lord, please tell me in detail about Prakruti and Purusha, who are the cause of this universe, which is composed of gross and subtle effects. So basically, so Lord briefly mentioned that the Supreme Lord impregnated Prakruti. As a result, Jiva comes into it and becomes bound by the way trying to enjoy in this material world. So now she wants to know more about Prakruti as well as Ishvara. So now starting from verse number 10, almost half the chapter talks about Prakruti and last half chapter talks about Ishvara. So that is one of the important description of this entire chapter. So if you see from Bhagavad Gita, the same thing is also present in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, wherein Arjuna asks, so can you please speak about Kshetra and Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Jnayam, Jnanagamyam, and Ishvara, Jiva, such kind of things. So Lord Krishna elaborately talks about these things, not elaborately, but very briefly, very precisely, talks about what is Kshetra, who is Kshetrajna, what is Jnanam, what is Jnayam, who is Atma and Paramatma, such kind of things are briefly mentioned. And the same thing is he elaborates in the upcoming later on chapters, chapter 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. The remaining are all elaboration of these items which are briefly introduced in the 13th chapter. So being requested by Arjuna, Lord Krishna says that Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram iti abhidiyate. So my dear Arjuna, kindly understand that the body in which the Jiva resides is actually Kshetra. Kshetra, Prabhupada translates as the field of activities. Kshetra is the medium through which we execute various activities. We fulfill all our desires. Then, etadyo vetitam prahu, kshetrajna iti tadvida. That one person who resides in this body and uses this body for the purpose of enjoying in this material world is called kshetrajna. He who knows about this body completely. So that is indicating the Jivatma. The Jivatma who is residing in this body is called as kshetrajna, the knower of the field. And the field of activities is the material body in which we are residing. And then the next verse Lord says that Kshetrajnan chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So my dear Arjuna, kindly understand that I am also to be known as Kshetrajna, because I also reside in the bodies of each and every living entity. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Just like the Kshetrajna, the Jivatma is residing in this body, idam shariram, I also reside in all bodies of all the living entities. So I am also supposed to be called as Kshetrajna. So Paramatma is also called as Kshetrajna. So body is the Kshetra, Jivatma is the Kshetrajna, and Paramatma is also the Kshetrajna. So then Lord says, Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam, Yattad Jnanam Matam Mama. According to my opinion, those people who understands the nature of Kshetra and the nature of the two Kshetrajnas, Atma and Paramatma, Yattad Jnanam Matam Mama. they are the knowers of knowledge. They are in true knowledge. So according to Lord Krishna, those people who understand the nature of Prakruti, that means Kshetra, and the nature of Jivatma and Paramatma, that is Jiva and Ishvara, they are in true knowledge. Others are not in knowledge. So this is the opinion of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna says Matam Mama. He never says in Bhagavad Gita, many places he uses Matam Mama. He gives his opinion. It is up to us to accept or not. So he does not say that, okay, I am saying you should accept, not like that. He just says so out of concern. And then almost at the end of this chapter, Lord Krishna for again says, Iti kshetram tata jnanam jneyam choktam samasata. So my dear Arjuna, I have explained briefly about samasata, means in brief, about the kshetra, the field of activities, the material body or the material nature, and tata jnanam. Jnanam is about the process of acquiring knowledge about jneyam, the object of knowledge, that is Atma and Paramatma. The field of activities, the means of understanding about something, and the object of our understanding, that is both the kshetrajnas, the Jivatma and Paramatma. I have explained about these three in brief. Samasata. Madbhakta etad vijnaya madbhava yopapadyate. My devotees, understanding this knowledge properly, the knowledge about Prakruti, Jiva and Ishvara and their interrelationship, will attain my nature. Madbhavaya upapadyate. Attain my nature means they will come back to spiritual world. They will become one of my eternal associates, having attained my Swarupa. They will get Sarupya Mukti, something like that. So they will attain my qualities, etc., etc. So this is the result of understanding about the knowledge of Prakruti, Jiva and Ishvara. So that is what is being taught in this particular chapter. And the next chapter talks about how a devotee attains the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the connection between chapter 26 and 27 with respect to Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, whatever we are reading in these two chapters is what is explained in the Bhagavad Gita starting from chapter 13 to chapter 18 verse number 40. So in one sense both are same, but there it is mentioned theme wise, here it is mentioned item wise. So in that way we can see. So having heard the inquiry made by Mother Deity, who wished to understand about Prakruti and Purusha in detail, so Lord Kapila defined what Prakruti is all about. Prakruti has many names: Avyakta, Pradhana, Prakruti and Nitya, we have seen. And that Prakruti eventually being lanced by the Supreme Lord expands itself into 5 gross elements, 5 tanmatras, 10 senses and 4 antakaranas: mind, intelligence, false ego and chitta. So what are they? They are explained. The 5 gross elements are earth, water, fire, air, ether, and 5 tanmatras are smell, taste, form, touch and sound. So like the 10 elements are there. And then there are 10 senses, out of which 5 jnanendriyas: ear, skin, eye, tongue and nose, and 5 karmendriyas: voice, hands, feet, penis and anus. And then there are 4 internal senses, so which are also called as antakaranas. So they are our mind, intelligence, ego and chitta. Man, buddhi, ahankara, chittam, iti. So these are the 4 internal elements. So basically Prakruti manifests herself, or Prakruti divides herself into 24 elements. And now we are going to discuss about these 24 elements elaborately in this chapter. Today we are going to talk about them. And then this is where we stopped last week. Etavaneva sankyato brahmana sagunasya sanniveshu maya prokta ya kala pancha vimshaka. In addition to these 24 elements, and also in addition to Ishvara and Jiva, we have another element which is known as Kala. So the Brahman expands itself into as Pradhana. Pradhana expands itself into 24 elements. In addition to that, there is a 25th element which is known as the time. And This time is described in two ways. It is the 25th elements and a particular condition of Prakruti. So what is the nature of time is briefly mentioned here in this chapter. And then the nature of time is elaborately explained in 29th chapter. Lord Kapila goes into elaborate details about time in the 29th chapter. But here, in the next upcoming two verses, he briefly mentions about the nature of time. So after mentioning the nature of time briefly, then he goes into explain the nature of the 24 elements in detail. So what we call Kshetra in the Bhagavad Gita is nothing but the combination of 24 material elements. So when we combine those 24 elements, we have our human body. So in our body, we have 24 divisions. And what are the different natures and different activities, different characteristics and qualities of all these 24 elements? We are going to see them one after the other. Prabhavam Paurusham Prahu Kalam Eke Yato Bayam Ahankara Vimudasya Kartuhu Prakrutim Iyusha. So there are two important functions of time. The first function of time is described in this verse. It says that the time is said to be the power of the Supreme Lord. Kalam Prahu Paurusham Prabhavam. Paurusham means Purusham. So time is said to be the Ishvara's Prabha. Prabha means is power, is effect. The effect of the Supreme Lord or the power of the Supreme Lord is seen in the form of time. So what is that effect? By which fear arises in the Jiva. Yato bayam kartuhu. Jiva is called as kartuhu, means Jiva is actually doer. Jiva does all the activities in this material world for the purpose of getting enjoyment. But that Jiva becomes fearful of time because he has taken shelter of Prakruti. Prakrutim Iyusha, having contacted Prakruti and being bewildered by false ego. Ahankara Vimudasya. Because Jiva, in its original nature, Jiva is Satchidananda Swarupa, full of knowledge, full of eternity, and full of bliss. But when Jiva takes shelter of Prakruti, that means when Jiva takes shelter of the material body, the nature of the material body is, it is not full of knowledge, it is not full of lifespan, it is not eternal, it is not full of knowledge, it is not a happy thing, it is actually Jada, unconscious in one sense. Because Jiva takes the shelter of a temporary, unconscious Jada Padartha, which is in the form of material body, the Jiva becomes fearful of the passage of time. Because none of the material elements can stay eternally. All the material elements have a beginning and have an end. Since the Jiva is identifying with the material body, which has a beginning, which has an end, the Jiva thinks that I have a beginning and I have a end. Always worried about the end. Every celebration of a birthday creates fear in the life of a living entity. Because the birthday celebration may be a happy occasion, but in the subconscious mind, one should understand that I have lost one more year in my lifespan. People are really afraid of losing life, losing the valuable time, because losing time means losing the facility to enjoy in this material world. From that point of view, the people in general, they are worried about passing of time. When the time moves on, when they are child, when they are in infant stage, they are always eager to become youth. When they are youthful, they are always worried about becoming old. No one wants to become old, no one wants to become diseased, and no one wants to become bedridden, no one wants to become retired or something like that. They always want to be active and energetic and enthusiastic and exploring different means of enjoyment. That is the nature of this material world. But the time creates fear with the passage of every year in the living entity. Because everyone understands that this body is temporary. This body, which is source of enjoyment, is not eternal. It cannot give eternally enjoyment. One day it will become weathered off. It will become old and it will be the source of all the variety of miseries. So the Jiva becomes fearful of passage of time. So this is the one quality of time. It instigates fear in the jiva. This is the first quality. So the first description of time is given here. Time is called the power of the Supreme Lord, from which the jiva's fear arises. Time is described as the instigator of the jiva's fear. It is only because of the time only we want to perform activities. Every rising of the sun indicate to us that, okay, get up, start work. If there is no sunrise, we continue to sleep only. There is no need to work only. But every rising of sun indicates that, get up, go to work and earn money and enjoy in the weekend, something like that. So that's how time actually influences and controls every jiva in this material world. So this is the first function of time. The second function of time is mentioned in the next verse. Prakriter guna samyasya nirvisheshasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. Here in Lord Kapila says, O Devahuti, O Mother Devahuti, O daughter of Manu, Manavi means daughter of Manu, powerful time, Bhagavan Kala. Here Kala is called as Bhagavan because Bhagavan indicates the one who possesses all the six opulences. Here power time is the most powerful thing. So we can control anything and anyone in this world, but not time. So one movement is gone means gone. We can't bring it back. So powerful time is described as that which produces agitation in Prakruti. Yata Prakriter Chesta. Prakruti, in the beginning, it is in sleeping state. It is in inactive or in equilibrium state. It is only when Mahavishnu glances upon Prakruti, that glance carries Kala Shakti. And Mahavishnu impregnates Prakruti with Kala Shakti and Jiva Shakti. So when Kala Shakti enters into the womb of Prakruti, the Prakruti becomes activated. Chesta means action. The sleeping Prakruti becomes activated. So which was previously in an equilibrium state of the three modes without distinctions. So previous to Lord's glance, it was in sleeping state. But when Lord glances, with the entry of time, the Prakriti becomes activated and it produces all the material elements and it produces all the universes, it produces all the planetary systems, it produces all the living entities, it produces unlimited variety of activities for all the living entities. Everything is by Kala. So this is another function of the time. Kala agitates Prakriti and Kala agitates Jiva by creating fear in the Jiva. So it's like that. They are the two functions of Prakriti. So here it is indicated as time is the instigator of Prakriti. So by instigating time, the Kala makes the sleeping Prakriti into active state. And with that active state of Prakriti, there is the creation of 24 material elements, there is the creation of unlimited Brahmandas. And within Brahmandas, the creation of 14 planetary systems. And within those 14 planetary systems, the creation of unlimited variety of Jivas, all the way from grass to the Brahma. And then unlimited variety of activities. Everyone performs activities under the supervision of time. Otherwise, no one performs. In infant stage, child is interested in playing. When the child becomes 4 to 5 years, the child is sent to school, eventually is college, university, and job, marriage, responsibilities, and then like that. With respect to the time, one is said to be performing different variety of activities. If the time is not changing, if the body is not changing, so we don't have to perform so many activities. The people, if they remain as children, they can continue to play throughout the life. It is because of the influence of time the body is changing, and hence the activities a person performs also changes from time to time. So these are the different effects of time. The change of the body, we can see it as the instigating Prakriti, and the change of activities, we can see the fear in Jiva. Out of fear of time, we perform various activities according to time, place, circumstances. As an infant, we play games. As a student of school, college, university, we study and do all the homework, etc. And eventually, after getting into job, we do our job activities. So something like that. They are all out of fear of time. So these are the few principal activities or few principal characteristics of time. So then now, what is the relationship between this Kala and Ishvara? It is said that Kala is the power of the Supreme Lord. Prabhavam Paurusham Prabhu. So it is the Prabha, the potency of the Supreme Lord. So how both of them are related, that is mentioned in the 22nd verse. Okay. This is not about that. We'll see that in the next slide. So this is about how Kala agitates Prakruti from 2nd canto 5th chapter. Kalat guna vetikara parinama swabhavata karmano janma Mahatma Purusha dishtitad abhut. There it is mentioned, the Prakruti, before Lord glances, it was in equilibrium state. The three gunas, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna, are the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. They were in sleeping state, or they were in equilibrium state. So when Lord glances upon Prakruti, the gunas of Prakruti are agitated from a state of equilibrium by time. Kalat guna vetikara. And then they are transformed into another form by the interaction of Swabhava, Parinama Swabhavata. Then Mahat-tattva appears by the karma of the jivas. By the interaction of the karma of the jivas, the transformed gunas will give birth to Mahat-tattva. All this is under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So this is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Maya adhyakshena prakruti suyache sa characharam. The material nature and the activities of all the living entities are carried out under my supervision. How does the Lord supervise all our activities and all the activities of the material nature? Through his potency known as Kala. It is Kala, it is time, which is actually supervising all our activities. It is actually supervising all the activities of the material nature. So this is what happens at the beginning of the creation. Lord glances upon Prakruti. That glance carries Kala, Karma and Svava. So when Prakriti interacts with Kala, Prakriti consisting of three gunas, when it interacts with Kala, so Kala agitates the three gunas. And then when the agitated gunas interact with Svabhava, the gunas transform into different state. And when the transformed gunas interact with Karma, they will give birth to Mahat-tattva. So first Mahat-tattva is born, then eventually Ahankara is born, then mind is born, then intelligence is born, then Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Panchamahabhutas, and 5 sense objects, like that one after the other. All the 24 elements are born by the interaction of the Kala with Prakriti. So this is how the Supreme Lord starts creation, just by glancing upon Prakriti through his Kala potency. That's all. Mahavishnu no need to do anything. He just have to glance upon Prakriti. That glance carries Kala. Of course, Karma and Swabhava also there. So that Kala, Karma, Swabhava, when interact with Prakriti, everything is produced and carried out and maintained for the rest of eternity, as long as the creation is supposed to be there. So this is how it is. So the universe is created, maintained, and even annihilated by the Kala potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the function of Kala. And that is the relation of Kala with Ishvara and Prakriti. Kala is the connecting via medium between Ishvara and Prakriti. So that's how we need to understand. So now the relationship is again mentioned here. Anta Purusha Rupena Kala Rupena Yobahi Samanveti Esha Sattvanam Bhagavan Atma Mayaya. Here Lord Kapila says, he who by his own energy exists internally as Antaryami, Samanveti Antaha Purusha Rupena. That personality who stays within the core of our heart as Antaryami or Paramatma, he simultaneously stays externally as time, Kala Rupena Yobahi. For whom? For all the living entities. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is like that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead who exists within the core of our heart as Paramatma, himself exists outside as Kala. So Kala is non-different from Paramatma who is inside our heart, and is non-different from the Bhagavan who is there in the spiritual world. Kala is the another manifestation of the Supreme Lord himself. The same Lord who exists internally as the Paramatma exists as time externally. Internally, the Lord exists without change, continuously as the controller in the form of Antaryami. Our body might continuously go through transformation, but Paramatma, he does not go through any transformation. He remains as he is from the beginning of our birth all the way up to the time of our death. Similarly, externally he exists as the controller in the form of time. So in this way, there are 24 products of Prakruti. Adding time, the Jiva, Prakruti, and the Lord Ishvara to this, there are 28 items. So Sankhya contains the study of 28 items. 24 items are manifested from Prakriti, known as 24 material elements, and the 25th element is time. 26th element is Prakriti itself, or is also known as Pradhana. 27th element is Jiva. 28th element is Ishvara. So he who knows the nature and the characteristics and activities of these 28 elements is qualified to go back home back to Godhead. Madbhava Upapadyate. And those people who understand this, they are qualified to attain the nature of the Supreme Lord. So that is what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So now Lord Kapila is going to talk about all these 24 elements and their qualities and characteristics one after the other. Now in describing the characteristics of the elements, first the primordial quality previous to the appearance of Chitta is described. So the beginning of the creation. So when Lord glances upon Prakriti, what happens? How Prakriti transforms and gives rise to Mahat-tattva and other subsequent elements. So that is being indicated now. Daivat Kshubhita Dharminyam Swastyam Yo Nau Parapuman Adatta Viryam Sasuta Mahat-tattvam Iranmayam. The Supreme Lord placed the Jivas into the womb of Prakriti. At the beginning of the creation, by glancing upon Prakriti, the Supreme Lord impregnates all the living entities along with Kala Shakti into the womb of Prakriti. So that is what is indicated here. The Supreme Lord placed the Jivas into the womb of Prakriti at the beginning of the creation, whose gunas were agitated by time. So the Prakriti's gunas were agitated by time after impregnation. Then Prakriti gave birth to the brilliant Mahat-tattva. Mahat-tattvam Hiranmayam. Hiranmayam means effulgent, golden-like, brightly shining Mahat-tattva is born from Prakriti. The first element which is appeared from Pradhana, from the womb of Pradhana, from the womb of Prakriti is Mahat-tattva. As the Lord impregnates Pradhana with Kala and Jiva, Jiva consisting of Karma and Svabhava, agitated by time, it gives rise to Mahat-tattva. The Lord delivered the Jiva into the manifest abode of the Gunas, agitated by time. Prakriti then gave birth to the brilliant Mahat-tattva. So this is what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14. Mama yonir Mahat Brahma tasmin garbham dadameham. So Lord says that Mahat Brahma or Prakriti is the place of my place of impregnation. And into that womb of Prakriti, I impregnated all the Jivas. Garbham dadameham. Garbham means all the Jivas. Sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. And by that impregnation, Prakriti gives rise to the different bodies of all the living entities. Of course, Atmas are already there, but different bodies will manifest. So manifestation of the bodies means manifestation of the different components of the body. Our human body is made up of 24 material elements. That means Prakriti will give rise to or give birth to all the 24 material elements. So that is the understanding. So now we are going to discuss one by one all the 24 elements. Vishwam Atma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadankura Swatejasapi Bhattivram Atma Prashvapanam Maha Pashpapanam Tama. So when that Mahat-tattva Hiranmayam, when the brightly shining golden like Mahat-tattva is appeared, what happened? That is being described. Mahat-tattva, which is the seed of the universe, without disturbance, manifesting the universe, held within itself, swallowed up by its radiance, the intense darkness which had covered it since the time of destruction. So at the end of the previous destruction, when everything is destroyed, the jivas and Prakruti, everything entered into the body of Karnadaksha Vishnu. There was intense darkness all around. So after the sleep of Mahavishnu, when again there is the right time for next creation, the Prakruti comes out of the skin pores of Mahavishnu. And unto that Prakruti, Mahavishnu glances. Through his glance, he impregnates Prakruti with Kala Shakti and Jiva Shakti. Then there appears Mahat-tattvam Iranmayam, brightly shining Mahat-tattva. So that Mahat-tattva will destroy the darkness which is spread all around from the time of the previous destruction. So now entire area becomes very bright. So that is the nature of Mahat-tattva. So the one of the important quality of Mahat-tattva is self-effulgent or self-revealing or the destroyer of ignorance. So these are different qualities of Mahat-tattva. It is self-effulgent, self-illuminating, self-revealing, and the destroyer of Ahankara, or the destroyer of Andhakar, destroyer of darkness, something like that. So Mahat-tattva consumes the darkness of dissolution through its effulgence. So the Mahat-tattva manifests the material element starting with Ahankara, which was situated within it in a subtle form. So first Mahat-tattva appears, and from Mahat-tattva remaining all appear. So one simple example I will tell you so that we can understand it very clearly. So all of you, of course, so most of you might have been having experience with farming, or if not that, even in your own respective homes, you might be doing some gardening, etc., etc. So we have seeds of some plants, and we take a mud pot and we sow the seed, and we pour little water here and there, etc. Put it outside of our terrace, exposed to the sunlight and air, etc. Maybe a couple of days later, we see a small sprout coming out of the seed. And then in due course of time, a small sapling comes out of the surface of the mud. And then eventually the sapling grows, bigger. It develops a trunk, branches, sub-branches, twigs, leaves, flowers, and if it is a fruit tree, eventually fruits will come, something like that. The first thing, of course, sowing a seed means Mahavishnu glancing upon Prakruti. And then Mahat-tattva appearing from that seed. That means the small sprout coming out of the seed. And it is from that sprout there appears sapling, which is visible to all of us above the surface of the mud. And then the sapling grows bigger and becomes a plant or tree eventually. So that is the understanding. So Prakruti is the seed, and Mahavishnu's glance upon Prakruti is like the sowing the seed, exposing it to proper environment, some water, some air, and some sunlight, etc., being placed in the mud. And then sapling is the first thing that comes out of the seed is Mahat-tattva. And then from that sapling, the sprout is Mahat-tattva. And from that sprout comes sapling, that is Ahankara. And then eventually from that Ahankara comes mind, intelligence, and other things. Everything will manifest. So like that it is seen. Mahat-tattva is fixed without agitation or inertness, unlike the mind. It was covered by darkness, which at the time of dissolution merged Mahat-tattva in Prakruti. Basically, at the time of previous annihilation, there was complete darkness. Now, as soon as Mahat-tattva appeared, the entire darkness is dissolved and it actually swallows up all the darkness. The entire area becomes bright. So it's like that. So the first element which appeared from Pradhana or Prakruti is Mahat-tattva. And from Mahat-tattva, there comes Ahankara. From Ahankara, there comes mind. And then there comes intelligence. prana, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, pancha mahabhutas, and pancha tanmatras, etc., etc. All those things will come. So now, one verse talks about what are the characteristics and qualities of this Mahat-tattva, which is radiant, brightly shining like the gold, which is self-revealing, self-illuminating, self-effulgent, and which destroys the darkness around. Yattat sattvagunam swacham shantam bhagavata padam yadahurvasudevakyam chittam tan mahadatmakam. Mahat-tattva, which is represented by Chitta in the body. Our human body is combination of the 24 elements. So within our human body, we have Pancha Mahabhutas, we have 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, we have mind, intelligence, ego, and we say something is called as Chitta or Chetana. So that Chitta or Chetana is nothing but Mahat-tattva. The first element which is produced from Prakruti is called Mahat-tattva, and that Mahat-tattva is there. It is placed within our human body as Chitta. Of course, it is there in the body of each and every living entity, but especially we'll talk about our human body, and this is called as Chitta, which is represented by Chitta in the human body, which is predominated by Sattva. So the principal quality of Chitta is Shuddha Tattva. It is supposed to be in the pure goodness. It is supposed to be in the state of pure goodness. Ettat Sattva Gunam. Sattva Gunam without any mixture of Rajoguna or Tamoguna. Its original nature is pure Sattva Guna, Shuddha Sattva, which is actually pure, Swacham, which is peaceful, Shantam. Unlike the mind continuously goes through agitation. But Chitta is supposed to be very peaceful, very Shanta. And it is the place of worship, place to worship the Lord, Bhagavata Padam. It is within our Chitta, we are supposed to worship the Supreme Lord. It is the place where we can worship the Supreme Lord. And it is also called as Vasudeva. Yad Ahur Vasudevakyam. These are the different qualities or characteristics of Mahat-tattva. Mahat-tattva is present within our human body in the form of Chitta, or we can call it as Chetana. English, we can call it as consciousness. And it is in the Shuddha Sattva platform, Shuddha Sattva nature. It is pure, Swacham. It is peaceful, Shantam. And it is a place where we can worship the Supreme Lord. It is the place to worship the Lord. It is also called as Vasudeva. Chitta is also called as Vasudeva. When Chitta is in pure state, it is called as Vasudeva. So the characteristics of Mahat-tattva and Chitta are, which is the representation of Mahat-tattva in the body of the Jiva, Sattva Gunam, Swacham, Shantam, Bhagavata Padam, Vasudevakyam. So the same characteristics are explained here, elaborated. What is well known as Chitta is composed of Mahat-tattva. It is present in the individual body in the form of Chitta. The same Mahat-tattva which appeared from Pradhana is present in our body as Chitta or consciousness. It is pure and devoid of passion and other symptoms. Pure means it is in the mode of pure goodness. It is freed from the influence of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. There is no place for passion and ignorance in this. It is the place of worship. It is the place for worshipping the Supreme Lord and is known as Vasudeva. So this is the quality of Chitta or Mahat-tattva. Mahat-tattva or Chitta is meant for worshipping the Supreme Lord, and it is also known as Vasudeva. So we can see the connection from Vasudeva. Lord Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, and the son of Vasudeva is called as Vasudeva. And generally it is said that Lord Krishna appears within the Vasudeva consciousness. When our Chitta or Chetana is pure, when our consciousness is completely pure, that pure consciousness is called as Vasudeva platform. So in that platform, the Supreme Lord appears and accepts our worship. So that's why every day morning when we recite Chaitanya Shishtastakam, we start with Cheto Darpana Marjanam Pavamaha Davagni Nirvarpanam. Here Chitta or Cheta means Chitta. Chitta is like a darpan, it is like a mirror. When it is filled with lot of dust, we will not be able to see ourselves. Same way, when our consciousness is filled with so many anarthas, so much dust, we will not be able to see ourselves, the Atma, and we will not be able to see Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, who is also known as Lord Vasudeva. So since we cannot see him, we cannot worship him. It is only when our consciousness becomes completely pure, then we will be able to see ourselves and our Paramatma. Then we can worship the Supreme Lord within the core of our heart. That's why it is said as Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on our beads every day in the morning, at least 64 rounds, is the process recommended by all our acharyas and prescribed to us by our Guru Varga and our Paramaguru, Srila Prabhupada, is only for the purpose of purifying our contaminated consciousness. Consciousness by nature supposed to be very pure, supposed to be very peaceful, and it is supposed to be in the mode of pure goodness, and it is supposed to be the place where it can show us the form of the Supreme Lord and where we can worship the Supreme Lord. Currently, we are not able to see ourselves only. Currently, and how can we see the Supreme Lord within our consciousness? The process of chanting that is recommended by our Guru Varga and our Param Guru Srila Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is only meant to purify our consciousness. Only in pure consciousness we become qualified to worship the Supreme Lord in reality. Currently, what we are doing is only imitation. Whatever worship we do, either we are doing at our home to the photo frame of the deities, or we are doing the worship of the deities in our home or in the temple. That is all a kind of imitation. Only when our consciousness becomes completely pure, we will be able to actually worship the Supreme Lord in person. What we are doing right now is kind of training. We are going through some induction program kind of thing. But we need to purify our consciousness by the process of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra regularly, with attentively, and also following four regulative principles and controlling our anarthas, keeping our senses under control, mind under control. That will help us purify our consciousness step by step. So then in that pure consciousness, we'll be able to see the Supreme Lord, we'll be able to worship him in person. So it is like that. So one example we can think of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. We hear pastimes from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj when he talks about the Goswamis. For example, like Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. So while sitting, they would go into contemplation. They would actually meditate upon different pastimes of the Supreme Lord. When they are meditating on the pastimes, they actually seeing the pastimes, and they are also part of those pastimes. And they become oblivious to the external world. So that means they are able to see the pastimes of Lord Krishna within the core of their heart, and they themselves become the part of those pastimes. Even the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, we hear that when he goes into meditation, he also becomes part of the pastimes, like plucking powers and arranging all the things for the play of Krishna and Radharani, etc., something like that. So that is the effect of pure consciousness. So with pure consciousness, we can enter into that meditation where we can be part of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. We can directly participate in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. We can directly worship him in person. So the purpose of practicing the sadhana bhakti process is all to come to this platform where we will be able to become part of Lord's pastime. So that is the whole idea. And Bhagavatam also, we see one example in relation to this Vasudeva consciousness. So this comes in the 4th canto. The context is like this. So at one point of time, Daksha was performing a fire sacrifice. All the devatas were invited. All the devatas, Indra, Chandra, Varuna, everyone is seated in that assembly, and Brahma, Lord Shiva also seated. Then the Yajaman, Daksha, comes into that assembly. As soon as Daksha comes in, seeing Daksha, in order to receive and welcome Daksha, all the great sages and all the devatas, they stood up, except two people. One is Lord Brahma, other one is Lord Shiva. So Lord Brahma is the father of Daksha Prajapati, and Lord Shiva is the son-in-law of Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati that time had 16 daughters. The 16th daughter name was Sati. She was given in marriage to Lord Shiva. So that time, so Lord Shiva was in deep meditation. He entered into his subconscious state, and where he was performing the worship of his worshipful deity, the Paramatma, or is known as Lord Sankarshana. He is actually entered into deep meditation and worshipping Lord Sankarshana or Lord Vasudeva. In that deep meditation. So then he became oblivious to what is happening around. So Daksha came in suddenly and everyone got up and welcomed Daksha. Lord Brahma did not get up. Daksha did not mind because Daksha is his father. But Lord Shiva did not get up. Daksha became very angry. So he thought that Lord Shiva is his son-in-law. He is younger to him. He is supposed to respect him by getting up. So he becomes very much angry. He kind of insults Lord Shiva and eventually a lot of things happen. He kind of curses Lord Shiva, unable to tolerate what is happening. The followers of Lord Shiva actually shouted Daksha and his followers. Daksha's followers again shouted Lord Shiva's followers. Lord Shiva becomes unhappy with all what is happening. So then Lord Shiva leaves that assembly and goes home. And eventually Daksha performed the sacrifice after few days. He was not at all happy with what Lord Shiva did last time. So this time he did not invite only Lord Shiva. He invited everyone else in the entire universe but except Lord Shiva and his wife Sati, Daksha's daughter. So when everyone is traveling towards the sacrificial arena of Daksha Prajapati, so Sati, all the devatas are going there. Then she approaches Lord Shiva and she requests Lord Shiva, so my dear husband, please let us go to my father's home. He is performing a huge fire sacrifice, huge yajna. Let us be part of that. So Lord Shiva says that if we attend an uninvited function, we will be insulted. So we'll not go. Then she says that no, father's home, in order to get invitation, we can go anytime. So then Lord Shiva said that no, not like that. Even though he is your father, since you have been married to me, your father does not like me. Even if you go, since your father does not like me, he will not welcome us. He will insult us instead. Then Sati said that no, it is not like that. Actually, you only made a mistake. Last time you could have got up. What was the problem? Why you sat quietly? You could have got up and my father would have felt happy and there would have been no misunderstanding between you both. So that time Lord Shiva speaks this verse. Why Lord Shiva did not get up when Daksha came inside? Sattvam vishuddham vasudeva shabditam yadiyate tatra pumana pavruta satve cha tasmin bhagavan vasudevo he adokshaje me namasa vidiyate. So herein Lord Shiva is telling to Mother Parvati. He says that the pure Antakarana is called Vasudeva. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. Sattvam Vishuddham means the completely pure Antakarana, the pure mind, intelligence, Ahankara and Chetana. When all these four elements are in the pure state, that pure state is called as Vasudeva consciousness. Vasudeva Shabditam. It is called as Vasudeva. Because there the Supreme Lord appears without coverings. Yadiyate tatra puman apavruta. In that pure state of Antakarana, in that pure state of the four subtle elements, Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana, then the Jivatma will be able to see the Paramatma directly. That kind of devotee, that kind of Jiva can get into meditation where one can be part of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. That's why it is called as Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. The pure consciousness, the pure Ahankara, the pure mind and the pure intelligence, their combination is called as Vasudeva Tatwa. In that Vasudeva Tatva, one will be able to see the Supreme Lord in front of oneself and will be able to worship the Supreme Lord. So then Lord Shiva says that in that pure Antakarana, Satvecha Tasmin, I worshipped the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Me Bhagavan Vasudeva Vidiyate. So in that pure state of consciousness, with my closed eyes, I could see Lord Vasudeva and I was engaged in the worship of Lord Vasudeva, who is situated beyond the material senses. That Lord Vasudeva is beyond material senses. He cannot be pursued by our Jnanendriyas or Karmendriyas, but he can be pursued by our pure Antakaranas. When the Antakaranas are in a Vishuddha platform, pure platform, we can actually perceive the Paramatma, we can perceive the Bhagavan, and who is another than Paramatma in our heart, and we can worship him. And Lord Shiva is telling that at that time, I was actually perceiving the Bhagavan Vasudeva within the core of my heart, and I was engaged in his worship. What kind of worship I was doing? By offering respects, namasa. By offering respects and offering prayers unto him, I was deeply worshipping him. That's why I did not see. But the what you can say, that the practical understanding is when some guest comes to our home, immediately we get up and offer namaskar. Actually, Atiti Devo Bhava, it is said. Atiti is non-different from Deva. Atiti is supposed to be treated as the Supreme Lord. Because whoever may be that Atiti, in the core of the heart of that Atiti, there is Bhagavan always there in the form of Paramatma. When some Atiti comes to our home, he is coming not alone. He is actually bringing the Paramatma along with him. So when somebody coming to us, we are supposed to receive two people, the Jivatma as well as the Paramatma. So it is a traditional custom that as soon as when we see someone who is coming into our home, who is coming close to us, we are supposed to get up immediately and offer namaskar and say namaskar and greet them appropriately. So the purpose of offering namaskar, saying namaskar and offering some words of praise is not to receive that person directly, but first one should receive the Paramatma who is there in the core of that heart, and then receive the person who is carrying that Paramatma all the way here. So that is the traditional understanding of offering namaskar. So here Lord Shiva is telling that Paramatma who is there in my heart, whom I am already witnessing and worshipping within my pure antakaranas, pure subtle body. So same Paramatma is there in the body of your father also. I am already offering respects to him. What is the need to offer him again externally? So that's why I did not open my eyes and offer respects to your father. In the sense, I did not offer respects to the Paramatma who is there in the heart of your father. Because the Paramatma is same. Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Kshetrajnan Chapimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Jivatmas may be different from our Jivatma, my Jivatma to your Jivatma and others Jivatma. But Paramatma is same everywhere. So I am already offering respects to the Paramatma, same Paramatma who is in my heart. And there was no need to offer respects to the Paramatma, to the same Paramatma in the heart of your father. That's why I did not open my eyes and get up and offer respects to Daksha, in the sense, Paramatma within Daksha. And your father did not understand that. So what I can do? He is not is not not at understanding the general custom of offering respects, etc. He was only interested in getting respect for himself, not about the proper custom of offering respects to the Paramatma first and then Jivatma next. So what I can do? So it is like that. But interesting point is that yati yate tatra puman apavruta. Only in the pure state of our antakarana, the pure state of our man, buddhi, ahankara, chetana, one can perceive Paramatma, one can perceive Bhagavan, and one can worship the Bhagavan there itself, there and there itself. So this is what is called as Mahat-tattva or Chitta, which is indicating the pure goodness state, the pure goodness, the nature of pure goodness is indicated by Mahat-tattva. So it is like that. And that Mahat-tattva exists within our body in the form of Chitta. So in order to purify that Chitta, here Chitta, Srila Prabhupada translates as heart. Heart is the sitting place of Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana. The mind, intelligence, Ahankara and Chetana, mind, intelligence, ego and consciousness, they all these four are situated within the core of our heart. So whatever sadhana we do, it is all to purify, these four elements. Whole life, whatever sadhana we do, currently they are in contaminated state. Currently our Chetana is in contamination state. So we need to purify it. When we purify it, we can actually see ourselves as well as the Supreme Lord who is seated there as Paramatma. Just like we have so many vessels in our home, when the vessels are burnt, they become completely dark, very difficult to look at it. So when we clean it properly, when it is sparklingly, we can actually see our face. It becomes like the mirror. So it is like that. Currently our conscience is very much covered with a lot of dust. So when we remove all the dust, it becomes crystal clear. Then we can see ourselves and also the Supreme Lord. Chitta, Ahankara, intelligence and mind, Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana, have the deities of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna and Aniruddha respectively, who are worshipped for purifying these elements and their effects in contaminated state. So in order to purify the four subtle elements, Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana, the Shastra recommends us to worship Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. We need to worship Lord Vasudeva to purify our Chitta. We need to worship Lord Sankarshana to purify our Ahankara. We need to worship Lord Pradyumna to purify our intelligence. We need to worship Lord Aniruddha to purify our mind. So not only purify these four elements, and also to purify their effects, the bad effects of the contaminated elements, we are supposed to worship these four deities. This is the request of the Shastra. So in order to purify these elements, we need to worship these four deities. Their present deities are Lord Vishnu. So in the material world, in order to oversee the activities or functions of these four elements, there are managerial deities. In order to maintain the managerial activities, the functions of the Chitta, the deity is Lord Vishnu or Lord Brahma as Gunavatara. Lord Brahma as Gunavatara or Lord Vishnu, he will supervise the activities of Chitta. And Lord Shiva or Lord Rudra will supervise the activities of Ahankara. Lord Brahma will supervise the activities of intelligence. So Lord Brahma as Gunavatara supervises the activities of Chitta. Lord Brahma as a living entity supervises Devata supervises the activities of intelligence. And Chandra is the supervisor of the activities of our mind. These four are the presiding deities of the four elements who are supervising or who are facilitating the activities of our senses. And in order to purify those elements, in order to purify the ill effects of those elements, we need to worship these worshipful deities of these four elements: Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. So it is like that. Chitta, we need to worship Lord Vasudeva. The controlling deity is Lord Vishnu or Lord Brahma as Gunavatara. For Ahankara, when purifying Ahankara, we need to worship Lord Sankarshana. And the controlling deity is Lord Rudra or Lord Shiva. For purifying intelligence or Buddhi, we need to worship Lord Pradyumna. The controlling deity of intelligence is Lord Brahma as Jiva or as Devata. Or for purifying our mind, we need to worship Lord Aniruddha. The controlling deity of our mind is Chandra. Just like for our eyes, we have the controlling deity sun. Only in the presence of sunlight, we can see things. So like that, the present deity of the mind is Chandra. The present deity of intelligence is Brahma. The present deity of Ahankara or ego is Lord Shiva. The present deity of Chitta is Lord Vishnu or Lord Brahma is Gunavatara. So Chitta represents pure Sattva Guna, Shuddha Sattva. Ahankara represents Tamoguna with a mixture of Rajoguna and Sattva-guna. Buddhi represents Rajoguna with a mixture of Sattva-guna and Tamoguna. and mind intelligence represents sattva guna with a mixture of rajoguna and tamoguna. So basically the four elements represent the four gunas. So mind is the representative of sattva guna with a combination of with little bit percentage of rajoguna and tamoguna. Buddhi is represented by rajoguna with little bit mixture of tamoguna and sattva-guna. Ahankara represented by tamoguna with little mixture of sattva-guna and rajoguna. But chitta represented by pure sattva-guna without any mixture of rajoguna or tamoguna. So these are the four states of the gunas. So it is like that. So now the next verse talks about the qualities of chitta. So what are the qualities and characteristics of chitta? Swachhatvam avikaratvam santatvam iti chetasa vrittibir lakshanam proktam yatapam prakruti para. Chitta is known to have purity. Chitta by nature is supposed to be pure, swachatvam, changelessness, avikaratvam, without any change, and shantatvam, peacefulness, and as its quality by nature. By nature, swabhaviki lakshanam, vrittibi lakshanam, these are their natural qualities. Sachatvam, shantatvam, avikaratvam, just like the nature of pure water. So whatever are the qualities of a pure water, the chitta is also supposed to be like that. The pure water is without any impurities, without any transformation, without any foam or mud, and without any change, and it is completely peaceful and completely pure, something like that. The qualities like purity are found everywhere in the chitta of the body. So the chitta element within our body is supposed to be made up of pure sattva guna, but currently our chetana is completely contaminated. So we cannot understand. When we purify it by our sadhana of chanting Hare Krishna mantra and doing Shravanam and worshipping deity, etc., etc., it becomes pure. When then how does it look like? The qualities of purity, since it is a reflection of the Lord, devoid of changes such as inaction or agitation, the pure chitta does not become inactive and does not become agitated by any external circumstances. It is completely peaceful. So one example we can think of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, once he was brought to the court of Nawab. So there he was told that, so this person, even though born in Muslim family chanting Hindu god names, so he should be given punishment. The king says that we don't give you any punishment if you stop chanting Hindu god names and chant Allah. That's all. But Haridas Thakur said that even though if you break my body into thousands of pieces, every piece will chant the name of Krishna. Then that Qazi orders. So this Haridas should be punished in 22 marketplaces. So as he was being punished at 22 marketplaces, he was not at all disturbed by the beating of the soldiers. Within the core of his consciousness, simply chanting Hare Krishna Maha mantra and praying for the protection of the soldiers who are acting on behalf of the king, who are punishing him. So it's like that. And without inaction and without agitation means here his consciousness is completely immersed in chanting Lord's whole name. That action is going on and is not at all disturbed by external activity of being beaten by the soldiers. So it is like that. That is the state of pure consciousness. We can think of like that. And devoid of passion and other emotions. The pure consciousness is not at all moved by passionate desires or ignorant desires, are known as the natural modes of the chitta. It is just like the virginal nature of the water, which has an excellent quality. What are the excellent quality of the virginal nature of the water? Pure water without foam or without waves is sweet to the taste and completely peaceful. Pure water has sweetness and completely peaceful without any adulteration and without any different taste. It quenches the thirst completely. When we drink pure water, our thirst is completely quenched. So that is the nature of the pure water. It is crystal clear, pure, and very transparent. and without any foul smelling and without any waves in it, etc., etc., without any bubbles. They already said that water, if the water has got bubbles, the water is contaminated, that is not fit for drinking. It is supposed to be discarded. So something like that. Just as water from contact with the earth and other elements become becomes impure. Actually, this is supposed to be becomes impure. So, for example, the water in the clouds is pure. When the clouds come down in the form of rain, through the medium, it comes in contact with the dust. And when the water falls on the ground, on the surface of the earth, it is again mixed with a lot of dirt. Then the water appears completely muddy. The pure water in the clouds, it was very pure, crystal clear, but when it comes in touch with the surface of the earth, it becomes muddy because it is mixed with the mud of the earth. Same way, just as the water from contact with the earth and other elements becomes impure, full of foam and waves, so chitta, attached to inferior objects, becomes polluted from contact with the lower consciousness. The chitta, which is supposed to be in Vishuddha Sattva platform, pure goodness platform, but being attracted to the material qualities and material activities, it becomes contaminated consciousness. Just like the mirror is covered by dust, it is filled with a lot of anarthas. So the purpose of our sadhana is all about purifying that contaminated consciousness. We need to purify our contaminated consciousness, contaminated Chaitana. So only in the pure state of our Chitta, we'll be able to see the Bhagavan and be able to serve the Bhagavan in person and directly. So these are the qualities and characteristics of Mahat-tattva, which is outside, and Chitta, which is inside our body. Both are same only. Outside we call it as Mahat-tattva, inside our body it is called as Chitta. Both of them will have same qualities. Avikaratvam, Satchatvam, and Satchatvam is purity, Avikaratvam without changelessness, and Shantatvam, completely peaceful. And from this Mahat-tattva, there appears Ahankara, which is in the mode of ignorance with the mixture of Sattva-guna and Rajoguna. So that is being mentioned in the next two verses. Mahat-tattvad vikurvanat bhagavad virya sambhavat kriya shaktir hankaras trivida sampada samapadyata vaikarikas taijasascha tamatascha yato bhava manasaschendriyanam cha bhutanam mahatamapi. So in these two verses it says that how from Mahat-tattva there appears Ahankara. It is like from the creeper which is inside the earth surface of the earth, the small from the sprout there appears a small sapling above the surface of the ground, that is Ahankara. From the transformation of the Mahat-tattva induced by the power of the Supreme Lord, Bhagavat Virya Sambhavat, Ahankara endowed with Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti and Dravya Shakti appeared in three forms. So this Ahankara consists of Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti and Dravya Shakti. So it appears in three forms. They are known as Vaikarika in Sattva-guna, Taijasa in Rajoguna and Tamasa. So in Ahankara, the three gunas are completely manifest, and from which the mind, senses and the five gross elements appear. So that means first when we sow the seed, there comes the small sprout, and in due course after 1 or 2 days later there appears a small sapling, and eventually when it grows, the small sapling becomes a strong trunk, and from the trunk there appears branches. One branch is called as mind, there is another branch called as intelligence, and from the branches there appears Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Panchamahabhutas, Tanmatras. They are like twigs and twigs, leaves, birds and flowers, etc. Everything will manifest in due course of time from that trunk. The root or the original sprout which eventually becomes the root is Mahat-tattva. The main trunk which comes out of the root is called as Ahankara. From that comes multiple branches. One is Vaikarika branch, that is Sattva-guna branch. Second one is Taijasa branch, that is Rajoguna branch. Third one is Tamasa branch, Tamoguna branch. So from the Vaikarika branch, there comes mind. From Taijasa branch, there comes intelligence and senses. From Tamasa branch, there comes Panchamahabhutas and five Tanmatras, etc. etc. They all like it. Eventually, it becomes the full tree with all the twigs, leaves, and branches, sub branches, and birds, flowers, fruits, etc. etc. Everything will manifest in due course of time. So, like that, all the elements will manifest from Ahankara. So now the deity of Ahankara is described. Lord Sankarsana is described in this verse. Sahasra Shira Samsakshat Yadantam Prachakshate Sankarshanakyam Purusham Bhutendriya Manomayam. Situated in Ahankara is the Lord with 1,000 heads, known as Lord Sankarshana, and also called as Lord Ananta, the cause of the mind, senses, and gross elements. So Ahankara's worshipful deity is Lord Sankarshana, who is also called as Lord Ananta, who contains thousands of hoods. Lord Sankarshana or Lord Ananta manifests himself in the form of thousands of hoods. So wherever we see Lord Vishnu, there is Sheshapantu. That Sheshapantu is Lord Sankarshana. Lord Vishnu is Vasudeva. The bed, the snake bed is Lord Sankarshana, is also called as Lord Ananta, who will have thousands of hoods. Ananta Naga, we say like that. So that is what is indicated here. And from the Ahankara, there comes mind. From the Sattva-guni branch, there comes mind. From the Rajoguni branch, there comes senses. From Tamoguni branch, there comes the gross elements. Bhuta, Indriya, Manomayam. All these manifest from Ahankara. So this is the description of the presiding deity of Ahankara and what comes from the trunk of Ahankara, different branches in different modes. So now the different activities of Ahankara are described in this verse. Kartritvam karanatvam cha karyatvam cheti lakshanam shanta gora vimudatvam iti va syad ahankrite. So the characteristics of Ahankara are its capacity to serve the presiding deities of the senses. Because from the Sattva-guni branch of Ahankara, there comes the mind and various sense devatas, under whose supervision we perform all the activities. At our individual level, our mind will tell, okay, abhi ye karo, do this, do that, get this, eat this, don't eat this. It is mind which dictates us. And all the activities that we perform are also governed by all the devatas. When mind says, see that, for us to see, the sun need to be favorable. There should be some sunlight so that we can see things, something like that. So the capacity of Ahankara is to serve as the presiding deities, and the senses, karanatvam, instruments with which we perform all the activities. We have 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas. With eyes we see, with mouth we speak, with hands we collect something, with legs we walk somewhere. So all the senses will manifest from the passionate branch of Ahankara. And the gross senses made up of the 5 gross elements, the gross bodily organs, our entire gross body, which is made up of the 5 gross elements with which we perform all the activities, is called Karyatvam. This is the Tamoguni branch. Our entire material body is manifested from Panchamahabhutas, which are manifested from the Tamoguni branch of Ahankara. And to produce peace for those people who are in the mode of goodness, they experience peace within their personality. Those people who are in the mode of passion, they are always active. They are always agitated. Let us do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. They are always hyperactive. And those people who are in the mode of ignorance, they are always bewildered. All these characteristics will also manifest from Ahankara. A person in the mode of goodness is peaceful. Person in the mode of passion is active. Person in the mode of ignorance is completely bewildered. So these are the different functions of Ahankara, individually and collectively. Basically, from Ahankara, there comes the mind and devatas, which who are supervising all our activities. And we also have senses with which we perform activities. And we also have the gross body, which is the basic means of performing all activities. Without gross body, even though with the senses we cannot perform any activity, the gross body is very much required. So it's like that. So these are about different functions and characteristics of Ahankara. And then from the transformation of that Ahankara, there comes mind, intelligence, senses, etc. All those things are now explained in order. Vaikarikadvikurvanam Mahat-tattvam ajayata yat Sankalpa Vikalpabhyam vartate kama sambhava. So this verse talks about from the Sattvaguni branch of the trunk of Ahankara, there appears the mind, and different functions of the mind are also mentioned. From the transformation of the Ahankara in Sattvaguna, there appeared mind. Mahat-tattvam ajayata. The mind, the Tatwa of mind is produced from the Sattvaguni branch of Ahankara. By the mind's general desire for objects, the desire for a particular object and notions concerning it appears. What are the functions of the mind? In generally, mind says, starting from the morning till the time, starting the morning when we get up, till the time of the night when we go to bed, mind always says, okay, do this, don't do this, get this, don't get this, talk to him, don't talk to him, go there, don't go there, sit here, stand up, walk. So like this, mind keeps directing us to perform something and not to perform something. These are all the various activities. In generally, whatever we are supposed to do, when the mind says all those things, that is called as Sankalpa. Basically, mind says do this. Sankalpa means taking a vow to complete something. So mind says that do this. So when it is morning 7:30 in our temple, so the mind says, please go and have some breakfast. So we come down and take breakfast in the Prasadam hall. When it is 7:45, the mind says, please go up. Darshan is getting open. We will go there and take darshan. And when it is afternoon 1 o'clock, go and have lunch. We'll take prasadam. When we go into the ashram again, mind says, take some rest. We take some power nap. So like that, throughout the day, our mind proposes us so many things, the regular routine things. Whatever regular routine thing that we do, that is called Sankalpa. And sometimes the mind says, do something out of box. So which is something unusual, which is not routine activity, some unroutine activity, that is called Vikalpa. So like this, generally mind proposes so many things to do as usual, what we do regularly, but sometimes some weird desire will come within the mind. So that kind of weird desires is called as Vikalpa. So the two functions of mind are Sankalpa and Vikalpa. So desiring to do the routine activities and desiring to do something, some unique activity, some special activity. So the one is general desire to possess the objects in the form of fantasies known as Sankalpa, and desire for specific or particular objects known as Vikalpa. Some unique desire, some specific desire to get something specifically. So that is called Vikalpa. So for example, like we are busy with our daily activities. So suddenly we get an idea. So for the last 2 years, we are under lockdown, we have not gone anywhere. So let me go to Mayapur. So going to Mayapur is not a routine activity, but the desire suddenly comes. That is an example of Vikalpa, something like that we can think of. Sankalpa is like regular activities. Get up early in the morning and take bath, attend Mangala Aarti and do japa, and take some breakfast and attend Darshanarti, Guru Puja, Bhagavatam class, and do some services here and there. With respect to me, I'm saying, but with respect to all other devotees, the routine activities. So mind keeps saying, okay, do this now. Once it is done, do this now, do this now, do this now. So this is the principal function of the mind. So now this verse talks about the deity of the mind. Yad vidurhi aniruddhakyam rishikanam adishwaram Saradendi Varashamam Samradyam Yogi Bhishanai. In the mind is situated the Lord, who is known as Aniruddha, who is the master of the senses, having the complexion of blue lotus, worshipped quietly by the yogis. So, the worshipable deity of the mind is Lord Aniruddha, who is the master of the senses, and he had the complexion of a blue lotus, Sharada Indivarashamam, and is worshipped quietly by the yogis. The yogis generally keep the mind under complete control and focus on Lord Aniruddha. So, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. So Aniruddha's another manifested form is Paramatma, Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Aniruddha himself expands the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, who is situated within the core of our heart. The yogis generally meditate upon Paramatma. So this is the connection to Lord Aniruddha and yogis meditation. And this is the last verse for today's. Actually, there is something to explain for this verse. So I thought of coming to here. We are already late, but still we do this and we'll stop with this verse. Tejasastu vikurvanat buddhitatvam abhutstati dravyaspurana vijnanam indriyanam anugraha. So this talks about the intelligence. O Devahuti, from the transformation of Ahankara in Rajas, Buddhi, consciousness directed to the manifestation of the objects appeared. It assists the senses. So it is talking about the intelligence. So from false ego in Rajas appears Buddhi. From the Rajoguni branch of the trunk of Ahankara, there appears Buddhi or intelligence. So this is the point which I wanted to discuss for today. To make a distinction from Chitta, Buddhi is described as Vijnana, Dravyas Purana Vijnanam, that which manifests an object. So, what do we mean by Dravyas Purana Vijnanam, that which manifests an object? So, generally, every day in, day out, we understand the nature of the things of this world by our 5 Jnanendriyas. With eyes we see, with ears we hear, with the hand we touch and understand whether something is cold or hot, and with the tongue we taste, we understand what kind of taste it has, and with the nostril we smell it and understand. So these are the 5 senses which acquire knowledge, the knowledge of various things in this world. But interestingly, what these 5 senses receive is a blunt information which has no specific characteristics. It is intelligence which collects the information from all these 5 senses and analyzes it and tells what it is. The function of the intelligence is that when I get up in the morning, when I see the sun rising in the eastern direction. So when I see it, eyes only see a red ball, a bright red ball, that much only. That is the nature of the eye. I cannot tell what it is. It is intelligence which analyzes what the eyes are seeing. And it says that it is the early morning crimson colored sun rising in the eastern direction. This understanding is given by intelligence. Intelligence is that which analyzes whatever information that we receive through our senses. For example, we go to kitchen in order to eat prasad. We serve our plate to all the items that are there. So, for example, if some item is served first time to us, we have not seen that item till now. So we take that item. When item is there, we see it. It will be looking some brownish color, and we smell the fragrance. When we take some part of it, we put it on the tongue. We'll understand what taste does it have, whether it is sweet, sour, pungent, bitter. The understanding will be given by tongue. What is the taste? Tongue only perceives the taste, but it cannot tell what taste is that. It cannot tell whether it is sweet taste or spicy or bitter. That is only told by intelligence. That is the function of the intelligence. Whatever information we receive through the 5 senses, it is immediately analyzed by intelligence And intelligence will tell that, okay, this is chair, this is table, this is remote, this is AC, this is laptop, this is mobile, like that. Everything is told by intelligence. That's why it is said that Dravya Spurana Vijnanam. Intelligence will tell us what is what in this material world. But because it is also awareness, it is said to be quality of Chitta. Buddhi shows favor to the senses. Without Buddhi, the five senses cannot operate. If there is no intelligence, even though the five senses are active, we will not be able to get what is what. For example, a mentally retarded person, even though the eyes might be working very active, but the person cannot tell when whatever he sees, he cannot identify what is what, because the intelligence is not in proper order. Even though he might be seeing the chair, he will not be able to tell what is chair. Even though he might be tasting something, he will not be able to tell what is the taste. So the mentally retarded means the intelligence is out of order. It is not working properly. So the function of the intelligence is to tell what is what. Whatever information we receive from our five senses, it is intelligence which will tell us. So whether this table is smooth or hard, it is the skin might be touching it, but it is intelligence which says it is smooth or hard. So it is like that. So awareness is the function of intelligence, and awareness is also the function of Chitta. So it is both Chitta and intelligence. Both will give the knowledge about what is happening around her, around us. So now we have discussed about the four elements: the mind, intelligence, Ahankara, and Chetana. How these four function. So there is a simple example is given. So for example, so we are sleeping in our room around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we are in deep sleep. So in the deep sleep, we don't know what is happening around. Suddenly, we get to hear a sound. So what happens when there is some sound is coming nearby, near our vicinity? When I hear a sound, first, it is registered by Chitta as simply awareness. So when we are in deep sleep, our body is sleeping, our senses are sleeping, our intelligence is sleeping, our mind is sleeping, our Ahankara is also sleeping. Only Chetana is awake. First, the Chetana becomes aware of some sound is going on. And then intelligence will tell us what is that sound. Intelligence will say that, okay, this is the sound of the bell, which is rung when the Vikalpa Bhoga is being offered to the deities around 4 o'clock in the evening. And then by the mind, I develop a desire for the sound. Then mind will tell that if it is the sound of the bell ringing for the Vaikalika Arati, the mind will say that, okay, my dear sir, please get up. Arati is happening. Get up and wash yourself and get ready and go and take darshan. Or if it is the sound of a car which is going outside on the road, the mind will tell that this is the some vehicle sound. Please sleep. Close your ears and sleep. The mind will tell what we are supposed to do after understanding what sound is that, whether to get up or to sleep. But we actually get up or sleep only when it is instigated by Ahankara. By intelligence, by Ahankara, it is related to one's identity will be revealed. So if there is a bell ringing, it is related to us. Because since I am a devotee living in the temple, the bell ringing indicates me to go for darshan. So I get up and go there. If it is the sound horn of a car which is going on the road in front of the temple, the Ahankara says that it has nothing to do with me. I don't have to get up. Take some more rest. So like that. So this is how the object becomes manifest to a person. So our Chitta, our Buddhi, our mind, and our Ahankara, all four together make us to do something and not to do something. So these four subtle elements will influence us to perform various activities in our day-to-day life. So these are the various functions in relation to the material world. And when these four elements are in pure state, they can perceive the Supreme Lord and they can be engaged in the worship of the Supreme Lord. That is for those who are desiring to go back home back to Godhead. So like that, one by one, Lord Kapila talks about all these elements in this chapter. So we'll stop here And next week we will continue with this example. We again take some examples and try to analyze this example so that we will understand the different functions of these different elements. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anisha Prabhu, for a
Krishna,
wonderful class.
Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you so much. Shall we have Sankirtan?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
So shall we request His Grace